The test sessions have concluded, as IMSA prepares to undertake a phenomenal new season of the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in 2025. Cars from all four classes recently took to the iconic Daytona International Speedway to complete a 3-day sanctioned test from IMSA to ultimately prepare for what lies ahead. And in these sessions, we saw a lot, including a brand new car from a certain manufacturer. So in this video, let's break down the first ever outing by the WeatherTech Championship entries, as IMSA gets ready for 2025. Now obviously, the star of the show was that new Aston Martin Valkyrie LMH, as the car went on track for the very first time in an IMSA sanctioned event. Aston Martin is set to return to prototype endurance racing next year for the first time since 2011, with the Heart of Racing running an all-new hypercar in every GTP event next season. Aston Martin completed 96 laps in the first day on Friday, with the Valkyrie ultimately ending day 1 around 2 seconds behind the fastest time, with a further 178 laps completed on Saturday during day 2, with the car's best lap being a 137.169 set by Ross Gunn. We also got our first glimpse at the return of Meyer-Shank Racing, who brought both of their Acura ARX06 entries to the test sessions. By the way, just before testing, MSR also confirmed 3 of their 4 endurance drivers for next season, which included Felix Rosenqvist and Scott Dixon joining Colin Braun and Tom Blomqvist in the number 60 Acura, and recently crowned IndyCar champion Alex Palou is confirmed to join Nick Yaloli and Rango van der Zande in the number 93 Acura. During the IMSA test, team co-owner Michael Shank spoke to Sportscar 365 and highlighted that they are excited to be back. His words are as follows: "This is where we belong, and we're going to do everything possible to get it back up in the front again here. Sports car racing for me personally is our basis. It's our rock. It's where we started from really. And it allowed us to do and win the Indy 500. So we owe it a lot, and we're super stoked to be back." On day 1, MSR ended the sessions on top, with a lap time by Tom Blomqvist in session number 2 of a 1 minute 35.905 in the number 60 Acura ARX06. And on day 2, Meyer-Shank Racing topped the timesheets in the afternoon sessions again, with Nick Yaloli going fastest in the number 93 Acura. And even though lap times don't mean much at this stage, it's a good reminder that MSR are back and are ready to challenge for success once again. We also got our first look in an IMSA sanctioned test of Wayne Taylor Racing Andretti with their new Cadillac V-Series R entries. The team, which will return to the Cadillac family for the first time since 2020, when they ran in the DPI class, brought both of their full season Cadillacs to the test, and they had decent sessions with their new cars, which were decked in all carbon instead of a full livery. The Whelen Cadillac team of Action Express Racing also brought their V-Series R to the test sessions, with Bamber and Vesti getting their first opportunity to drive the Whelen Cadillac, as they joined Jack Aiken along with Brazilian Felipe Drugovich, who raced for the team at Le Mans and will pilot the number 31 Cadillac at the Rolex 24 next year. The other manufacturers in GTP also had productive tests. Both Porsche and BMW brought their full season factory entries to the sessions, with both the Penske entries running different testing schedules, with WEC drivers Julian Anlauer and Kevin Estra joining the full season IMSA drivers in the number 6 and number 7 cars. JDC Miller Motorsports was also present with their customer Porsche 963, as the Minnesota squad seemed to have a good test. I also want to point out that one of the drivers that got an opportunity to drive the JDC Miller entry during these test sessions was Porsche Formula E World Champion and former F1 driver Pascal Wehrlein, as the German racer finally was able to drive the 963. although I do want to point out that Proton Competition was not here with their 963. But the number 5 Mustang sampling car should make its return to IMSA in 2025 for the Michelin Endurance Rounds. BMW showed strong pace with their M Hybrid V8 entries, especially during day 1 and during session 5 in the night, when both cars finished with the second and third quickest laps. BMW did feature some upgrades to the brakes and drivability of the LMDH prototypes, and even though they did have to do some engine changes on day 2, it still was a very productive test for the German marque in GTP. And let's not forget about Lamborghini, as the Iron Lynx Run SC63 heads into its second year of competition in IMSA, which could turn into a full season adventure, following the recent rumors that Lamborghini will pull out of the World Endurance Championship. Lamborghini actually set the pace in the very first session on Friday, with Andrea Caldarelli going fastest in the number 63 car, with a lap time of a 1 minute 35.930, which ended up being the second fastest lap of the day. Later on, during day 2, while the night session took place, Romain Grosjean set the fastest time of the day in the Lamborghini, with a lap of a 1 minute 35.661. Of the 31 entries that entered the testing sessions, 7 of them were LMP2 cars. Across the P2 field, we got to see the return of the CrowdStrike Racing by APR Oreca 07, which hasn't appeared in an IMSA round since July for the Chevrolet Grand Prix at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, so it's definitely nice to see them back. Danish racer Malte Jakobsen set the pace during day 1 in the LMP2 class, setting a 1 minute 38.635 in the 04 CrowdStrike car. This was also the first appearance for Sebastian Bourdais in his new ride with Tower Motorsports in their number 8 LMP2 entry, as the recently announced WEC Cadillac driver will join John Ferrano for the full season, with Sebastian Alvarez joining for the endurance rounds. As for the GT classes, 12 entries would take to the track for 2 days of testing, during the Saturday and Sunday sessions, and not on Friday, as the first 2 sessions were exclusively for the prototypes. The GT cars would also have the entire Daytona road course to themselves during the Sunday sessions. During this IMSA sanctioned test, there were definitely a few storylines around the GT cars. One of which was that this test would be the debut for the BMW M4 GT3 Evo, as Paul Miller Racing brought their VIR winning number 1 car to this test. A major upgrade is coming for the team this season, as they expand to running 2 BMW entries during the full season. But for this test, only one of the BMWs would be present. 2 of GT Daytona's new entries would appear during the test sessions, those being the number 36 DXDT Racing Corvette and the number 19 Van der Steur Aston Martin. Both entries had productive test sessions and ended their first day of IMSA outings with the number 19 Aston Martin clocking in 98 laps, and the number 36 Corvette finished with 213 laps completed. Moving on, and Ford were the only manufacturer that brought 2 cars from the same team, as the Multimatic Motorsport squad prepare for their second season with the Mustang GT3. Ford ended day 2 with the fastest times, with Dennis Olsen on top in the number 65 Ford, with a 1 minute 48.177, and in the 4th session of the day, Sebastian Priaulx put the number 64 Ford with the second quickest time of day 2. Before the test began, Ford announced their driver lineups for their Mustang cars in GTD Pro, with former Rexy Porsche driver Sebastian Priaulx not just driving the Mustang during the testing sessions, but also joining Mike Rockenfeller in the number 64 car full-time, replacing Harry Tinknell, who is rumored to be racing an Aston Martin Valkyrie next year. Now, another noticeable entry that appeared during this test that I wanted to mention from the GT field was the number 83 Iron Dames car, But instead of bringing a Lamborghini, the Iron Dames brought a Porsche 911 GT3R as they prepare for a switch from Lamborghini to Porsche in IMSA. And as I explained in my video on Lamborghini's potential WEC exit, the Iron Dames are also expected to be switching back to Porsche in the WEC as well. So as the IMSA sanction test concluded, here are the fastest times from each kind of car. In GTP, Romain Grosjean's lap during the 5th and final session for the flagship category was good enough for the fastest time during testing. His lap was a 1 minute 35.661, set in the number 63 Lamborghini, which I'm sure was a confidence boost for the Iron Lynx team and the Italian marque, as they start things off strong heading into 2025. The LMP2 field's quickest time came from Malte Jakobsen in the 04 CrowdStrike car, as the 2025 factory Peugeot driver set a 1 minute 38.635 on day 1 during session 2. Meanwhile, the GT field was headed by Dennis Olsen's lap of a 1 minute 47.882 in the number 65 Ford from Multimatic Motorsports during session 6 of day 3. Moving on to laps completed, and in GTP, it was the number 6 Porsche Penske that completed the most laps, with the drivers putting in a total of 558 laps during all 5 sessions for the GTP class. Meanwhile, in LMP2, not only did this team get the fastest lap, but they also got the most laps too, as CrowdStrike Racing by APR finished with 353 laps completed, with the number 04 Orica 07 across the sessions, giving them the most laps completed across any of the LMP2 entries. Finally, across the GT cars that participated, it was the Iron Dames that completed the most laps across 5 sessions, with the number 83 Porsche clocking in 341 laps at Daytona. So that was a breakdown of the test sessions ahead of the 2025 season of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. What did you think of the first test sessions for 2025? And what are you most looking forward to as IMSA returns to racing early next year? Well, make sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like sports car endurance racing, this might be the channel for you. I'm making content on the WEC, IMSA, and so on every single week. In fact, there are some videos out on your screen all about these topics. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.